Join me today as we pay our respects at our nation's most sacred shrine, Arlington National Cemetery. It is the final resting place of over 400,000 of America's military personnel and families, a number of Supreme Court justices, and 2 presidents. It is a must-see for student tours, and in this series I will show you the cemetery through this lens as we see what they see when I guide them. We will visit the graves of President John F. Kennedy and his brothers, see the changing of the guard at the tomb of the unknown soldier, spend time at the Memorial Amphitheater, investigate individual graves, and walk through its grounds. It is a magical space where even the most quiet of my student groups become filled with curiosity and questions, and I will share what I know with you as well as give a behind-the-scenes view of the trips. Take a look at the black sign on the way in, the one that says, "Conduct yourself with quiet dignity and respect at all times." Remember, these are hallowed grounds.
Hey guys, welcome back to Vigoroso, DC. And today we are at Arlington National Cemetery. This is where over 400,000 of our military heroes are buried, as well as 2 presidents and a number of Supreme Court justices, and many victims of the 9/11 Pentagon attacks. And behind me is the Memorial Amphitheater. And just in front of the amphitheater is the tomb of the unknown soldier and the changing of the guard. There is a lot of ground to cover here at Arlington National Cemetery. It will take quite a few videos to get that all covered, and I do plan on shooting everything here over time. But for this series of videos, I want to show you exactly what I do with my student groups when we come here. So we normally do certain things. We go here, we see the tomb of the unknown soldier and the changing of the guard, and we also see President John F. Kennedy's grave, as well as walk through the cemetery. When we have more time, we do more things, but for this series of videos, I want to focus on what we do in a student tour and also show you some of the behind the scenes steps that we go through and things that we do and questions I get asked, that kind of thing. So let's get started. So here we are outside the cemetery, and this is the big sign at Arlington National Cemetery, visitor parking to the left. And what happens is our bus will come down from this street, and back there are actually 2 more memorials. There's a hiker memorial over on the other side, and on this side is the Seabees Memorial. You can't see it from here, but I did already cover these in a separate video series, so go back and check those out if you haven't seen them. But our bus will pull up along this street. And if you can see where these cones are up here, there are some security guards back there wearing yellow vests. They will always ask our driver how many people are on our bus. And this is just to get a feel for how many people are coming into the cemetery. And then we will pull in there to the left. That is the entrance. So that's where cars and buses go. And just behind it is where pedestrians go. And if you could see all the way in the back, pretty much dead-ending this road, it looks like that there should be the entrance to the cemetery. You have this big kind of ornate gateway structure, and it was built originally to be an entrance, but then later on they decided not to use it that way. And now it is the Military Women's Memorial, and it is both a memorial and a museum at the same time. And if you look up from there, that is Arlington House. That was once the home of Robert E. Lee, but we will talk more about that later on. Here's the entrance to the parking lot. And the parking lot is actually pretty quiet this afternoon. One of the best kept secrets about Arlington National Cemetery is that it is much quieter and peaceful and easier to get around in the afternoons than in the mornings. In the mornings, 8 a.m., 9 a.m., it can be a complete madhouse, especially in the spring. But even in the spring, you get to 3 p.m., and it's nice and chill. So I always try to rearrange the schedule where we can go in the afternoons if it's possible. But anyway, once we get off the bus, I have already explained a lot of stuff to my group. I've given them a lot of ground rules about the cemetery, some basic information about things, and then we head off to security, which is right down that way. So this is the side entrance of the Welcome Center, and this is primarily used as an exit. However, it is also an entrance in certain cases, so people with wheelchairs or other kinds of mobility issues can enter this way. And also when they get extremely busy, sometimes they will use this as kind of like an overflow entrance, but for the most part, it's over on the other side. And now I will show you where we bring our students. And right now you can see 4 traffic cones on the ground. So they basically have all the kids line up, or anybody who's in the group line up behind these 4 cones. They say make 4 lines. And then we make our way around, and we're all trying our best to stay in the 4 lines. It's not easy, it's kind of narrow over here. And then we come up around this way. And there's the Welcome Center. And we turn right. And then we turn left right here. And as you can see, there is another set of 4 cones, and everybody lines up behind them again, still in the same original lines that we started from. And that is because next we will go into the front of the Welcome Center where all of the security screening is. So they have one airport-style machine on the far left, another airport-style machine on the far right. And in the middle, there's usually kind of wand checks where they just look through your bag with a wand. And then we reassemble on the other side. When things get really busy, you can see that blue tent back there. That will be an extra kind of security post that we can use. But for the most part, we're going through the middle of the building. And now you can see there's actually a school group lined up at the cones. So then when we come out of the other side of security, I generally stand right here, and there are all the machines right in front of us, and I will direct them outside. So I will put my left arm out and say go through those doors and reassemble on the other side, and that's where we will meet. On the other end up here are bathrooms. I usually save that for the very end, but if somebody really has to go, then we'll do that first. And this whole area here, it's actually kind of like a museum. There's all kinds of displays and exhibits, and there's a little more back here. But we generally do not spend any time here. There's only so much we can do in a day. So it's basically in and out, just trying to get through security and then out those doors. And there's also a gift shop right up here. We don't do this gift shop either. Once we reassemble on the other side, we are right over here, so you can see where this big group is, and their tour guide is talking to them. And that's pretty much what I'm doing with my group. We're getting everybody gathered, and we make sure that everyone's accounted for. And that is a big part of the job, always making sure that everybody is there, because if somebody's missing and you don't realize it till later, that's a big, big problem. So we count up, make sure everyone's with us, and then we head up this path, which is exactly where that group went. Here it is from this angle. And before we start walking, I will always tell them to look at this black sign right here. We'll say, guys, take a look at this sign before we go in. It says, "Welcome to Arlington National Cemetery, our nation's most sacred shrine. Please conduct yourself with quiet dignity and respect at all times. Remember, these are hallowed grounds." And then we will start walking. And here on this stretch, as we start walking into the cemetery, is where I feel I can kind of take a breath of relief, because everything's kind of chaotic up to that point. Getting everybody off the bus, getting them through security, getting them reassembled on the other side. And now we can finally start enjoying the cemetery. Back there is the tram. We never use the tram on student trips for a couple reasons. One, it costs extra money. I think it's around $17 or something per ticket. That's one. Two, there's just not enough trams to accommodate school groups. However, when we have people on the trip with mobility issues, they will often use the tram, and then they're kind of paying out of their own pocket. And they will either meet up with us at other places in the cemetery or do their own thing and rejoin us later at the bus. And here again is the Military Women's Memorial from here. Again, right here, this was supposed to be an entrance to the cemetery, and it still is for official vehicles, but not for the general public.